Susan Cain, Bittersweet, How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. In A Bittersweet, How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole, author Susan Cain examines the intricate balance between joy and sorrow, arguing that embracing the bittersweet allows us to experience life in its entirety. Drawing from various aspects of culture and emotions, the book demonstrates the significance of understanding the complementary nature of pain and beauty. The introduction of the Japanese concept of mono no aware, our instinct for compassion, and the importance of the bittersweet in music are a few examples that showcase how humans find meaning in the mixture of joy and suffering.
Embracing the bittersweet. On May 27, 1992, Sarajevo was besieged by warfare, and amid this chaos, cellist Vedran Smilovic played for 22 days to honor the lives lost in a mortar attack. This bittersweet moment emphasizes the intrinsic connection between joy and sorrow in human experience. Across cultures, we find beauty in this mixture of emotions, in celebrations like the fleeting cherry blossoms in Japan, and in the music we listen to. Our reactions to the bittersweet are connected to our compassion instinct, which fosters connection and community building. By honoring the bittersweet, we can enrich our lives and embrace the complexity of human experience. Imagine standing amid the ruins of a war-torn city, overcome by the chaos and violence around you. In Sarajevo, 1992, this was the reality for many civilians, who faced constant danger in their efforts to maintain some semblance of normalcy. On one tragic day, 22 people were killed by a mortar attack while waiting in line at a bakery. The following day, the scene was solemn and desolate, until a brave cellist decided to defy the destruction. Vedran Smilovic, a professional musician from the Sarajevo Opera, donned a tuxedo and played Albinoni's Adagio in G minor on his cello in the ruins of the bakery for 22 days, dedicating one day for each life lost. This heart-wrenching contrast of beauty and suffering exemplifies the bittersweet blend of joy and sorrow all humans experience in life. This connection between bitterness and sweetness transcends cultures and generations. For example, an Arabic saying speaks of days of honey and days of onion in life. In Japan, the cherry blossom season is honored with festivals, as they represent the fleeting beauty of life. The sakura, or cherry blossoms, embody the Japanese concept of mono no aware, the gentle sorrow linked to the impermanence of all things. Similarly, we are drawn to bittersweet melodies in music. A study from the University of Michigan indicates that people whose favorite songs are bittersweet listen to them about 800 times, compared to a mere 175 times for people who prefer upbeat tunes. But why are we so captivated by this blend of emotions? Our strong response to the bittersweet can be traced back to our compassion instinct. This fundamental human trait connects us with others suffering and pain, facilitating community building and foster care. Psychologist Dr. Keltner observes that sadness, a key component of the bittersweet, is inherently related to caring for one another. By acknowledging the sorrows of others, we build social bonds and enhance the complexity of our own lives. Western culture often disregards the bitter aspects of life, with a focus on progress, positivity, and the notion that grief and trauma can be overcome with closure. This perspective limits our appreciation for the bittersweet, depriving us of the opportunity to embrace life's beautiful complexity. By cultivating a greater understanding and appreciation for the bittersweet, we can rediscover the innate bond between joy and sorrow, giving voice to the rich tapestry of human experience. Like Vedran Smilovic playing hauntingly beautiful music amidst the horrors of war, we can find solace and connection in the knowledge that even in the face of grief and pain, there exists a place for grace and beauty. Embracing pain and growth. Maya Angelou and Buckminster Fuller were both exceptional individuals who experienced immense pain and trauma in their lives. Instead of succumbing to their suffering, they transformed their pain into a driving force for growth and impact. By accepting negative emotions and embracing the inevitability of pain, studies show that individuals experience less stress and greater well-being. Through practices like loving-kindness meditation, we can intentionally release pain's hold on us and cultivate empathy in our lives. Maya Angelou, the renowned poet, memoirist, and civil rights activist, went through unspeakable pain. At 8 years old, Angelou was raped by her mother's boyfriend, who was subsequently beaten to death in front of her. This trauma silenced her for 5 years. However, in time, Angelou became an influential writer, with her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, sitting on the New York Times bestseller list for 2 years. Buckminster Fuller, a philosopher, inventor, writer, futurist, and the genius mind behind the geodesic dome, faced immense heartache after his 4-year-old daughter succumbed to meningitis. Devastated, Fuller contemplated suicide. Yet, he went on to significantly impact 20th-century design and be likened to Leonardo da Vinci. Pain and trauma are senseless, unfair, and, unfortunately, inevitable. Life is a bittersweet mix of joy and pain, love and loss. Avoiding suffering would not only mute our emotional range, but it would also limit our growth potential, and we risk missing out on the wisdom and resilience forged from our trials. In fact, a study from the University of Toronto found that individuals who accept their negative emotions experience less stress and greater well-being, even after facing adverse life events. Pain can be a teacher, guiding us towards what truly matters and catalyzing deep empathy for others. By embracing our suffering, we can become wounded healers. For example, after the national tragedy of September 11, 2001, a record number of Americans, inspired by their collective pain, decided to become firefighters, teachers, and health workers. Loving-kindness meditation, a Buddhist practice known as metta, offers a way of actively transitioning from pain to love. Practitioners repeat simple mantras, extending love and goodwill to themselves and then progressing to family, friends, acquaintances, strangers, and eventually those who have caused them pain. This practice not only fosters compassion for all but also helps release the hold pain has over our lives. A Buddhist story further illustrates that suffering is an inescapable part of life. A grieving woman brings her dead child to the Buddha, pleading for the child's resurrection. The Buddha agrees, but only if the woman can fetch a mustard seed from a house that has never experienced pain or loss. Understandably, she fails. Suffering is an inherent aspect of life, as intrinsic as love. As the story suggests, we cannot avoid pain and suffering. We will experience pain, and we will inflict pain on others. However, we have control over our responses to suffering. By welcoming pain when it arrives and acknowledging its role in our lives, we can embrace the chance for growth and transformation. Embracing emotional honesty. Americans often wear a smile to project success and superiority, even in times of personal crisis. This cultural tendency is rooted in a long history of hiding vulnerability to avoid the stigma of failure. But suppressing negative emotions can amplify them and create further problems. Learning to embrace emotional honesty, such as through expressive writing, can offer valuable relief and cultivate genuine resilience. Even though Americans are reputed to smile more than any other nation, this outward cheerfulness conceals the truth that many are far from happy. With statistics indicating that 30% of Americans experience anxiety over their lifetimes and 20% endure major depression, one must wonder why they maintain such a facade of positivity. The roots of this behavior can be traced back to early colonial history when New England was primarily settled by Calvinists. In this belief system, people's destinies in the afterlife were predetermined, but they were encouraged to act like winners, to appear as if they were among the chosen few. Though the country has since grown secular, the distinction between winners and losers still persists, leading to a society where loss and failure seem contagious and must be avoided. And so, people continue to smile even in the face of significant challenges. However, concealing negative feelings only exacerbates them, a phenomenon called amplification. By avoiding uncomfortable thoughts and emotions, individuals intensify their distress, often resulting in undesirable consequences, such as taking their frustrations out on loved ones or resorting to destructive coping mechanisms. Instead of suppressing negativity, one can take steps to better manage and cope with it. One such approach is expressive writing, a technique advocated by social psychologist James Pennebaker. After hitting a rough patch in his marriage, Pennebaker began to write down his feelings, and experienced a newfound sense of clarity and relief. Intrigued by the transformative power of expressive writing, he conducted formal research to explore the benefits. In one study, he asked participants to write for 20 minutes a day over a 3-day period. One group wrote about deeply personal and emotional experiences, while the other focused on mundane topics. The results revealed that those who engaged in expressive writing felt calmer, happier, and less stressed. Subsequent follow-up tests even showed improvements in physical health and professional achievements. Adopting emotional honesty by facing one's failures and misfortunes can lead to renewed opportunities and understanding. Being candid with oneself and others about life's setbacks is challenging in a culture that prioritizes winning. However, by embracing vulnerability and acknowledging the reality of struggle, individuals can cultivate resilience and true happiness. Embracing life's bittersweetness. Our society has grown distant from the concept of death, making grief and mourning more uncomfortable subjects. By cultivating an awareness of life's impermanence, however, we can enrich our lives and find greater happiness. Death and loss are inevitable, but love can transform and return in new forms. Tibetan monks carry out a nightly ritual of turning over a water glass, reminding themselves that they might not live to see the morning. While it seems morbid to Western minds, death and its role in shaping life is worth considering. Do we diminish life when we distance ourselves from death? In the past, death played a more prominent role in everyday Western life. People died and were cared for at home, and grief was more openly expressed through rituals and mourning practices. But by the 1930s, death became more secluded, hidden away in hospitals and borne by healthcare workers. Consequently, society's familiarity with grief and mourning faded. Facing the impermanent nature of life need not be approached with the tranquility of a Tibetan monk. Still, acknowledging life's fleeting nature and the inevitability of death can yield significant benefits. For instance, being aware of life's impermanence can bring greater happiness. Stanford University psychology professor Dr. Laura Carstensen discovered that elderly people tend to be happier thanks to their heightened sense of life's fragility. Older individuals tend to forgive easily, love without restraint, and experience gratitude and minimized anger. As one becomes more aware of death and loss, life's joyful moments become increasingly precious. Carstensen believes that the elderly treasure moments of happiness because they are more conscious of their transient nature. Young people, in contrast, often view death as a distant prospect and focus more on exploring new experiences. Consequently, they are more likely to dwell on negativity and negative emotions. Elderly individuals tend to savor their existing possessions and relationships rather than continually seeking novelty. By investing love and care into cherished belongings, they find even more reasons to appreciate and love life. This outlook results in a positivity bias, where positive memories take precedence over negative ones. To better embrace life's impermanent nature, we should reconsider how we think about grief. Instead of urging grieving individuals to let go and find closure, we could highlight our incredible ability to bear grief in life without becoming overwhelmed by its weight. Moreover, we should individually embrace the core truth of life's bittersweetness, the inherent connection between love and loss. This connection is beautifully expressed in a story about writer Franz Kafka. He once encountered a young girl who had lost her doll in a park. Over several weeks, he delivered letters from the doll to the girl, recounting the doll's adventures. Eventually, he gifted her a new doll with a note hidden in its clothes, which read, "Everything that you will love, you will eventually lose. But love will return again in a different form." By recognizing life's impermanence and embracing its bittersweet nature, we can find a deeper appreciation for the love and joy we experience. After all, love may be lost, but it will return in a new form, continually enriching our lives.
As the book explores experiences of pain, suffering, and growth, It becomes evident that comprehending and internalizing the bittersweet is essential for a fulfilling life. The book shows us that accepting our failures and negative emotions can lead to improved mental well-being and a more mindful approach to life. Interesting case studies such as Maya Angelou, Buckminster Fuller, and the Tibetan monks reveal that the bittersweet nature of life cannot and should not be avoided. Furthermore, examining grieving rituals and practices can encourage us to embrace vulnerability and impermanence. Ultimately, Cain implores us to recognize that love and loss are inevitable and intertwined, and by allowing ourselves to live within this bittersweet reality, we can truly live a rich and meaningful life.